Hey guys, welcome back. 1776 or bust. So today we're going to look at a gun that I have, yes, and I'm going to say this without you guys judging me too much. This is the fifth VP9 I've owned. Now, before you say, dude, this guy's a nutcase, I'm really not. I just had to get rid of those guns because I couldn't afford to buy a new gun without selling those. And the VP9 for me wasn't necessarily the finest gun I owned. I was a huge fan of the PPQ. And to me, the PPQ was a keeper while the VP9 was expendable. So fast forward a couple of years, I got this at a very good price due to the fact that it was used. And I said, what the hell? I want to try this gun again. I definitely want to do its due diligence this time as opposed to, getting rid of the gun a little bit too early. And I wanted to play around a little bit with the configurations of the panels. Everybody always raves about the ergonomics of this firearm. I went into my local gun shop and put my hands around it. I said, you know what? This is a very nice firearm. It's built very well. The ergonomics are excellent. We could argue if the texturing is really good or not. I still think the texturing is pretty decent. But overall, what I have to say is that I am very happy I actually picked this up for such a decent price because there have been some minor improvements. Now, the improvements I'm talking about are not necessarily mechanical or functional. They are definitely more aesthetic. But I think from that aspect, it kind of gives it a little bit of a new, fresh look. Very minimal, but still a little fresh or a little refresher. Now, obviously, with the serrations are still fairly usable, and I have no issues with them whatsoever. They are cut deep enough. You also have the, I guess you can call these the cocking levers in the back. I'm not really sure what to call them, but they do give you a little bit of assistance. If, let's say, you have a little bit of a weak grip and you can't really do the overhand rack, you can take these serrated levers, I guess you could say, and just pull them back and use that to cock your firearm. They've actually changed them a little bit. So as you guys can see, they're a little bit different. There used to be just one single piece of plastic that was a little bit beveled, I guess. I don't even know if it was at that point. I don't think it was. But this one's a little bit different. You can see that there are little serrations cut into the plastic. And it feels, or at least it looks like it's a little bit thicker than the old one, which I think is still pretty good. One of the other changes they did to this model is they gave it a basic front sight. Now, the old ones used to have the luminescent sights, not tritium. This is very similar. So this little guy right here, which is green, it's a very nice looking green, by the way. This is a luminescent sight. It is not tritium. So it does glow in the dark when you give it a little bit of daylight. But I would say that's a little bit of a downer because I wish it did have a tritium vial in it. Interestingly enough, these are made from XS. Not really sure what these are because I've never seen them advertised. But again, they are XS sights. And I think I'll probably drop a tritium front on this. But I do like them. I think they're pretty standard, pretty easy to pick up. I have to say, very easy to pick up. And yeah, I've been pretty happy with it. So now, of course, when we talk about this gun as an overall firearm, aside from the cocking serrated levers and the fact that you have a nice big green glob of green stuff on the front there, I mean, overall, the gun is still a VP9. There hasn't been many changes. The trigger is still decent. I mean, it's not the best trigger. So you have a slight take up right there. But the good side about this trigger is the fact that instead of that trigger breaking all the way to the back of the polymer, it breaks right there. So even though you have a little bit of length on that pre-travel, what you're going to find is once you hit the wall, it's a very short take up. Now, I do like the fact that that trigger, I think that's what makes this trigger pretty decent. Now, the reset, well, the reset is, well, it's okay. It's a stagey reset. In other words, when it pushes forward, you can feel it wanting to push your finger forward, which is okay, but I think sometimes it's a little bit too much, a little bit too positive a reset. It's not horrible, but it's not great. So I would say the trigger is decent, but definitely not excellent. I mean, there's definitely better triggers out there. For example, I'm going to show you this one. This is my PX9. This gun was like about $300, but look at how little that take up is right there. And then it breaks, and you can see that it's not breaking all the way to the back of the polymer either. So it's a very short take up. Fuck. Now the reset on this gun is a little bit less right there, a little bit less pushy, I guess, or positive than the VP9, about the same length away, but still a lot less positive. So in other words, slightly a little more controllable. But the break is excellent. This is a very good trigger on this firearm. This is a pretty decent trigger on this firearm. Now, the biggest thing for me on this model is the fact that I'm actually going to use a little different configuration than I have in the past. Now, one of the things I have to say that was kind of game-changing for the VP9 versus other firearms at the time was the fact that you could use these panels and change all the panels. You can do a different configuration on each side, including your backstrap. And at the time, that was kind of revolutionary because most firearms, or as a matter of fact, I think every firearm at the time, only had a replaceable backstrap. Now, fast forward again a couple of years, and you're seeing guns like this that have the same configuration, and you can change the backstrap, your side panels, and they are not replaceable with either one. In other words, what I'm saying is they are not reciprocal. You cannot use a VP9 panel on this, and you cannot use a T-Shift PX9 on that. But I mean, overall, one of the things that I'm saying or seeing on this firearm in particular is I've been able to finally figure out a configuration that works for my hand. So for those of you out there who are kind of curious what I'm using the large right side backstrap, a medium left side backstrap, and a medium size rear grip panel. And the reason why I'm using that is because when I get my hand on this gun, that palm swell pushes this hand. I can feel it actually adjust the hand perfectly so that instead of the webbing of my hand here falling a little bit too far on this side, it actually is able to wrap around completely on that little bit of wide polymer at the bottom here. And I would say that's the only thing I ever noticed about the VP9 is that I never really gave it enough time to get this grip configuration right for my hand. So now that I have it right, or at least I think I have it right, I can't wait to shoot this guy because I think it's going to be worthwhile. So what I'd like to know from you guys is, have you ever done the same thing? Have you had this one type of firearm that you've given it several different tries, never necessarily really gave it a good enough lengthy try, and now that you're returning to it, you finally kind of figured it out? So as you guys can see, this VP9 is pretty sweet. I'm pretty happy with it, and I think I'm going to start looking at some other HKs. I've had a P2000. I actually sold that P2000, if you guys, if you remember. It just, the problem I had with it was I really just didn't like the trigger. Even after playing around with the trigger and fixing it up a little bit, it still didn't do anything for me. So I actually sold that and replacing it right now with a P30SK version 1 light LEM, which, by the way, if you're looking for a gun, man, those triggers are just awesome. So leave those comments down below. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you love the HK VP9 or if you've had multiple ones and you just never really got used to them, or any other firearm for that matter. As always, guys, I appreciate anything you do for the channel. If you'd like to buy some merchandise and swag, please click on that. If you want to join Patreon, you can do that as well. As always, I appreciate the support. Give us a thumbs up, share the videos, and as always, everyone, freedom is never free.